That should do it then.
So how do
But
you just got to set it up to do it?
you just have to turn on what's called, there's a feature called center stage, and you
Hmm.
turn it on, and then it'll follow you around or follow the speaker around, so you can walk around and talk, or you could, you know, show off a house and showcase a house and walk through a house and just turn that on and leave your iPad somewhere where it can follow you around while you're talking.
Huh.
Wow.
Yeah,
Hmm. That's
That's cool.
awesome.
definitely.
Well, so we are live on Facebook right now, and I just want to highlight our awesome guest we have today. So we have Colby Lampman in the house. Woo! Thanks for being here, man. We had Tony
Of
Larson
course.
last week, and he's here still today. Oh, now I like highlighted both Tony and um, Colby on a video, so I can see you both. That's pretty awesome. So, hey, first off, I always like to ask, we're a little low today. We only have about 5 or 6 people in here. Usually we have like 30, 40. So we usually have a bunch, but a little low
They heard
today.
I was going to be here. Yeah, they thought, no,
Yeah, they're
I'm not.
like, oh, it's just Cole. It's just
Yeah,
Colby. It's like,
yeah.
it's yeah. Until they hear your stats, then they're gonna be like, what? Should have been there for that guy. So, quick question, Colby. So, you've been in the business. What you've been in the business? Can you have a guesstimate how many units in your career when you were in production that you closed?
Yeah, sure. So I was in production for about 11 years as a solo agent, and I kind of changed things up. I think we all hit a point where we're like, okay, what, life's thrown us in a different direction, and my different direction was that my family wanted to kind of slow down and do less of the brokering, less of the management. And I knew at the levels I was at, I couldn't continue to service my clients the way I was servicing them, and now be a really good broker, really good owner of a company, a brokerage, with agents that needed a broker. And so I started to kind of transition, still kind of stayed in production because I had a lot of past clients that I feel like, so up until I know my peak transactions, it was like 3 or 4 years in a row where I was in excess as a sole agent of 100 transactions a year. So I did, my top year was 102 transactions.
Nice, nice.
And that was a solo agent. Back then I would say, that saying, work smarter, not harder. Well, I definitely was not working smarter. I was working harder and not smarter, but
Mm.
I still had a really high production volume. Um, but just didn't have much of a bandwidth outside of production. That was my world. That was my life. I know agents that work for our brokerage now that have that similar way of doing business.
Hmm.
And it does work really well from the aspect that you're really hands-on, and
Hmm.
your clients know that and they appreciate that. But what it doesn't do is helps you leverage, or helps you scale, or helps you have any bandwidth or time outside of just being with clients all the time, 24/7. So that was a tough thing. Back then, I would say, when I was doing that level of production, it was like 2012, 13 to 2016. Um, and I was doing that through 2017, but I can't say I was a solo agent then. I brought my wife in to work alongside me, and then we brought on a transaction coordinator and had a buyer's agent and started to kind of build a team at that point.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I would say, um, yeah, for total lifetime production, I couldn't tell you just offhand how much I did in my whole career, of being in production for full time for 11 years. But
Yeah.
um, you know, I
Safe to say it's probably in the 2000 or more, excuse me, 2000 or more range.
yeah,
Pretty common that someone starts to get to the point to where once they kind of break 1,000, 2,000 comes really fast.
yeah,
One thing that you mentioned was leverage. And look, so many people just want to like, oh, they either want to start a team or they don't want to start a team. They want to have nothing to do with the team. So what is a team? A team is two or more people. It could be you and a transaction coordinator. You're on a team. I'm sorry to
yep,
say. you use a TC, you're a team.
Exactly.
Usually you do it yourself until you can't handle a business anymore and you need to leverage and work in order to be able to continue to do more. So what do? You bring on a TC. And then you got so much business. So what are you going to do? You got to bring on a buyer's agent to help you service that business. And so for you, you were doing a level of pushing 100 units by yourself before you had a TC? Or did you have a
Before,
TC?
no, before I had a transaction coordinator. So I didn't even
Wow.
have a transaction coordinator then. I was getting up. Cassie
Talk about
remembers this.
stressful.
My wife remembers this, but yeah, I was getting up and inputting my own listings, doing all my own contracts, all my own addendums, writing everything myself, attending every single closing for every single client. I just felt like that's what I needed to do. It was kind of the role model. My mom was my role model, and she's who I kind of modeled my business after. And, she was just extremely hands-on with every single person that she supported and helped. And so I just thought that was the way to do it.
But you're taught, yeah.
Yeah, it was what I had to model myself after. And then, I finally thought, okay, and then I saw how they work together, husband and wife with her, with my dad and stuff, and they were working together, in a lot of ways, and not, and in other ways where, they both did different sides of the business. My dad was more in the commercial and development side, and my mom was very much residential, single family, new construction. But I thought, well, naturally, if I need to leverage, what's my first thing gonna be that I'm comfortable with? And that was to bring, my wife into the business and have her work with me, because again, that's what I had to model after. But I definitely took a pivot from where my parents sort of handed the baton off, and that is that I did start to trust and bring in other people. It's still hard for me to this day to allow, you know, uh, other support, other help, and leveraging. It's very challenging for me, just because it's not normal to not be hands on in every space of the business, but it's necessary, I think, for a lot of people. And I see and I definitely did, take full advantage of building a team. Kind of, my next reference point after my parents was, well, I've always heard about this $1 Million Agent book. I'm going to pick up it, read it, and see what it's all about. And and then just started coaching. Really, that was my real, I would say, pivot point for me, was allowing someone to coach me, because then that was, now I had someone new to model myself after. My mom did things amazingly, but what I've learned in this business is that you have to have other perspectives and other ways of doing it, and learn those different ways. And you can't just go off one thing or one book, and you can't just go off $1 Million Agent and say, okay, that's going to be, the Bible for everything. Because, and I think that a lot of people tend to do that, where they say, hey, I'm just going to model myself after this or that only, or this is going to be my only playbook or whatever. And what I've learned in this business is, you know Sean's way of doing things and Tony's way of doing things, or Leanne's way of doing things, can be completely different, or they could contradict each other, or give a different perspective. And it doesn't mean that one's right and one's wrong. It just means there's different ways and different paths to success in this business, and different ways to be successful. And that's the beautiful part, and that's why this call is so important too, is, bringing on different people and different perspectives, because everybody's traveled a different road and different paths to success. And so, there's always going to be those nuggets from each different coach, each different perspective, um, each different book you read, each different experience you have. And so, yeah.
Well, I think with what you're saying is when you really started kind of shifting to another level is when you decided to kind of take on a coach or
Yep.
some sort of training, or feeding your mindset with something new, because there's so much, right? There's so much going on, and you should kind of take a little from everybody. I mean, we say success leaves clues, and it's a true thing, that there's all these different people that are successful, and you got to take it all in. One
Yeah.
coach, you can do it that way, you cannot do it that way. It's your choice, but you gotta give yourself a chance. we talk about that 5 steps to mastery. And one is you got to gain the knowledge, you got to gain the wisdom, you got to create habits and expertise. But once you start teaching it to people, you said you started coaching. You started coaching people too, training people yourself, being a coach yourself. You've mastered your trade, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you're not continuously feeding your brain every day with new content, you're not going to grow. You're going to go backwards eventually.
Absolutely.
Safe to say.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's one of those things where, even being out of production now for a little while, you just have to keep up with it. It's something you have to keep doing to stay fresh and there's different methods now. I think you and I've explored some of them and stuff of leveraging, whether it's artificial intelligence now is another tool. There's CRMs, which we didn't have it back then, when I was selling. Like I had you know, I mentioned the term Rolodex the other day. Like people's like, what's a Rolodex,
What's a
or whatever.
Rolodex? So
Yeah.
weird.
But yeah, it's just we have different tools that we can equip ourselves with. We have different things, but some things never change, some things never die, and relationships and building value and building trust and building rapport and all those things are never going to go away or be something that the lessons that are in that, those are something that equates into everybody's business, no matter what, no matter whether it's your path is this or that or what have you. There's certain things that are just key elements that have to be there and have to exist too. So
I mean, the Rolodex, what was the Rolodex, and what was the CRM back then? So my CRM was, I had a file. I always had a CRM. It was a file though. I didn't know what a CRM was. No one actually, someone first said it. I thought it was a client, client retention something. I can't remember. I made up a name. I didn't know what it was. But I had this filing cabinet, and each person had a file. It was huge, a big old filing cabinet. And a lot of people would do is they'd take each month and say, these are the people I need to follow up with it this month. And so this is January. So today I pull up the January file, and those are the people I need to follow up with in January, February, March, on and on and on. I think you froze too. So let's see if you come back, hopefully. There you go. Oh, you're back now. So that was our CRM back then. We've always had, realtors have always had a CRM. If you're to this day not using a CRM, at minimum, use a filing cabinet. If you want to be old school, do it. But these days, you've got a CRM. It is so easy to use, and it'll do 90% of the contacts for you. Maybe more like 80% of the contacts for you, 85. So, I mean, it'll just sit there and continue. And these days, I just got an alert from Commissions Inc. that they just completely enhanced their AI, their bot. So it's going to be having better conversations now than it was before. And it was already converting a bunch of people. So utilizing that CRM, we've always had it. We've always had a CRM. We just did it different back then.
Yep.
You can't just live by your cell phone, right? And just sit there and say, who am I going to call today? Oh, no, you got to have some sort of structure to your business. Good. So you guys realize, so most realtors have a plan to eventually be able to work less and still make enough money. And whether you want to say, I want to work less and make the same amount of money. I will say,
Sean, I remember you just brought something to the top of my mind that I forgot about. And, oh, hold on.
Yeah, you're frozen
a little bit. I think I froze up.
I can still hear you, though.
Am I frozen?
Yep, now you're back.
Now I'm back.
Yes.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep, we can hear you good.
Okay, so you brought up something that, definitely triggered something in my brain, and that is that I remember the day when the Real Estate Commission approved allowing electronic signatures on offers as an acceptable form of, that they would now accept that as an approved and accepted contract, a ratified contract. Whereas before, there was a time when I was selling real estate when they would not allow anything but ink signatures on a contract. You could have faxed documents. You could have facsimiles of documents that were faxed because we didn't even have scan back then. But I do remember, it had to be hand signatures. They wouldn't allow electronic signature. And I remember um, just that one form of technology alone helped me scale because, again, I wasn't leveraging other people, but that one piece of technology helped me scale from 50 transactions a year to 100 transactions a year just by e-signature
Oh yeah.
and being implemented in my business. I remember that. And I was like, I went
Mhm.
from 50 years deals a year that year prior, and then all now we can sign documents, and that was like a miracle. And then I
Mhm.
remember, now I didn't have to be as, driving out to meet every client to get their, initials and signatures on documents, and I could just send it electronically. And that was, um, something that helped me scale from 50 to 100. So yeah.
That's a game. It was a game changer. You know what's funny is when that first happened on our real estate team that I was on at the time, I was the first one to start using it. And I actually introduced it back then to our team leader, and I said, he goes, "What is that you're doing?" I'm like, "It's DocuSign." And that back then, that was the first one that I started using was actually, they had an Authentisign, but it was called something different attached to the forms
Yep.
in the California. In California, it was zip forms. So they had this Authentisign, but I didn't like Authentisign. It was clunky. I would start filling out my disclosures to send to my client, and then it would time out. And
Oh,
I'm
I remember
all
that.
that work I did was for nothing. I was so mad at to start over.
I remember that.
And then that's why I decided to start paying for DocuSign. And then I started doing DocuSign. And yeah, my team leader even asked, what is that? What are you doing? I was like, it's digital signatures. They're allowed now. What? Yeah, it's cool. And get so much more work done.
Yep.
So much
But
faster.
there's now AI is, I feel like that new thing that's going to help people, scale or leverage, like you said,
Yeah.
whether it's from conversion, from converting leads into appointments, or for, just, finding those people that are going to be potential buyers or sellers that have their hand raised, or,
Mhm.
just, there's a lot of things I could see AI doing to sort of, save hours or save time, or help
Yeah.
people find potential clients faster. So
Yeah. We've been hitting that pretty hard the last 3 weeks, I think,
mhm.
with AI. And I'm telling you, it's going to get better and better. So
Oh yeah.
I'm telling everyone, don't be scared of it. You can't break it.
Yep.
If you want to use ChatGPT and these others, they're free unless you want to pay for the upgraded one to make it a little faster and get a few more tools. But embrace it and make sure you're training on it
Yeah.
consistently because it's going to be changing very fast. And then next thing you know, you're going to find yourself way far behind if you don't use it.
hmm
Mm.
um
Yeah.
I know that I tend to talk about, technology on
Ooh,
thing.
breaking up a little bit.
Oh yeah. Oh,
Breaking up a little
sorry.
bit. Say that again. Talk
Oh, I
about
said
technology.
I said I know I tend to talk a lot about technology and systems and tools, but at the end of the day, that wasn't kind of the foundational things. And so, since I do talk about technology a lot and things like that, I feel like, a discussion, especially with you, Sean, just because I know you and Tony are similar in this aspect, but, just, having, I'm going to share a couple different things. I'm going to see if it'll let me share my screen, but just some things that I think are cool that kind of came to my mind. Um, I had talked about them a little bit yesterday in our meeting yesterday, but, um, I was going to maybe share this little tidbit too, and that
Oh
is,
yeah, I loved it.
um,
Please do.
so, um, I in this kind of era that we're in, where the landscape of real estate, the level of expectation, the level of, you know, uh, what the media is saying as far as compensation, and that, oh, real estate agents' commissions are being slashed, and they were being paid too much, and just, all the things surrounding this whole lawsuit. Um, I think back to the experience I would have with my clients, and just, what things we need to do to kind of combat, um, a lot of what we're under attack, and how our industry's under attacked. And so,
Mm.
a lot of us buy products at a premium. We'll spend money on products that are going to be more reliable, going to last longer, going to help have more security of our data and information. And some of us are iPhone, some of us are Samsung, some of us are Nike, some of us are, whatever. But I feel like there's a lot of products that we'll invest money into that make us feel good and give us a different experience, different perspective, different whatever. And it's really the value of that product, that will put certain brands on a higher level value and being willing to, put additional revenue, or different, value on that product. So, really each one of us agents individually have our own value proposition that we bring to the table. Our team has a value proposition, our brokerage has a value proposition, but at the end of the day, that value proposition is what helps, create that client experience. And I just think kind of going back to the basics and going back to things that regardless of what tool, what technology, what piece of systems we do, just the relationship aspect and how we make our clients feel. So wow is one analogy. I used
Colby,
yep.
swipe my picture to the side because it's covering. There you go. Swipe it over. There you go. Now you can
So
see it.
yeah, willingness. So willingness, if you use this, wow, willingness is showing a genuine interest in understanding, addressing your client's needs, and going above and beyond the transactional aspect of the deal. Really learning about them, their goals, their lifestyle preferences, building loyalty, um, in-depth consultation, open-ended questions. These are all things I'm sure, you coach on, as those open-ended questions of qualifying people. But, just being a good listener and being willing to listen and not just being someone that just boasts, hey, here's all the great tools I have. Here's, all these things. I mean, yes, there's importance of that to bring unique value in marketing and all those things, but really just, showing a genuine interest in someone's experience, their success, understanding their needs. I remember a client one day, all I did was set them up on an MLS drip search. But I guess the MLS drip search I set them up on was so accurate in what they told me they were looking for. It hit all those key points. I mean, and a year after, they had got so burnt out looking with agents who were trying to get them to spend above their price point, or get them to, oh yeah, you should buy this house, and they just felt like they had agents that weren't listening. And I remember that phone call that one day, didn't recognize the phone number at all, didn't have them programmed as a saved number in my phone. I got a phone call from somebody and they said, hey, I haven't talked to you in over a year, but your emails that come through on your MLS searches are so accurate to what we're looking for. And we've been working with other agents and we've had other agents showing us, but what you really send us, it's incredible that, it hits all those key points of what we're looking for. And I just felt like, man, I sure want to reach out to you and maybe reconnect with you and see if you'd be willing to help us. And I said, are you committed to anyone else now? And they said, no, we're not. We've kind of given up hope, but, they even said, they just felt like they had agents that weren't listening. So just something as simple as that, is listening to what
Yeah.
someone's looking for, and that willingness. And then openness is really just being transparent and being honest in all communications and interactions you have with your clients, sharing market insights, data, trends, building trust, and credibility, and setting clear expectations. That's what openness is, you know, um, I was always an open book with my clients. I always, didn't try to steer them in a direction that was in my own, self gain. And even if it meant that I had to prolong a transaction with someone because, maybe, you know, historically, other than one, little time frame, one little blip on the radar from like 2008 to 2011, late 2008 to like March of 2011, that was the only time period when it would have made sense to wait to buy. So, I tell people all the time that they should never wait to buy. And historically, that's been true for the majority of my career, my mom's career, all those things. But, there was times where um, waiting a little bit, waiting, because it was the wrong season of the market, because we have seasonal markets, and winter's not the best time to sell and put your house on the market in November. You're going to be better off listing in the spring or whatever, but there was a lot of advice I gave my clients that was, really, um, just in their own best interest, and not anything to do with what was going to help me make a commission faster. So just openness.
Yeah, I mean, openness also goes with honesty. I mean, so
Yep.
many agents just try to please. You try to
Yeah.
please the client, thinking you're giving them what they need, and that's going to help you, but it's not. You got to be open and honest with them.
Hmm.
And if you are, oh my goodness, they're going to just, that's how you show that you're the professional, because
Yeah.
you don't just like put a water thing out in the middle and expect they're going to go there. You got to lead them to the water. You got to be honest.
Yeah. And
You got to, yeah, go ahead.
and because of that, Sean, it's funny because my wife will tell you firsthand, but that these three things right here, the willingness, the openness, and the warmth part of it, creating a welcoming, friendly atmosphere, making them feel appreciated, and making a genuine connection and fostering loyalty. Those three things, willingness, openness, warmth, is something that will basically, make any agent, honestly, just following these three things right here. Um, you're going to be impenetrable when it comes to that relationship you build with your clients. You're never going to lose another person to some other agent or Zillow or any, tool or AI or technology. Um, it's always going to be something where, my wife, what she'll tell you is that I built such rapport and trust that even if I was the one, as she was learning the real estate business in the industry, telling her what to tell my clients as I was trying to, now transition to be a broker, she'll tell you firsthand that a lot of times people would say, most of the time, actually, they'd say, well, yeah, I appreciate everything you're saying. I know you're saying that Colby, was the one that, said all these things and gave you these opinions of what we should offer and do this, but could you really just have him call me when he gets a chance? And they wanted to hear it from my own mouth. And that was really challenging, to transition for that reason. But what it did do when I was selling was it was really helped solidify that repeat and that referral business to a really deep
Mm,
level where I very rarely had to, I would never recommend to anyone not to do follow up, post closing, or
mm,
send postcards, or make calls and connections with their past clients. But really, I was able to have a business where I still did those things, but even if I didn't, there was this loyalty, this trust, this relationship that was established that really could not be penetrated with my clients. And so, it was pretty cool, and so when I thought about, how can I talk to some, other agents about just, um, in this market, and in light of the lawsuit and the settlement, what things can you do, and how can you present yourself as an agent? What things can you implement um, in your own business and in the way you engage with your clients that'll help you, um,
yeah,
help you create a new, a spin on things for people. So,
yeah, so good. Awesome.
um, and then last thing that I came up with was ice, and it was, I feel like a lot of us get beat down in this business. So I is initiative, confidence, endurance. C is confidence to overcome any objection. You don't have to be cocky. You don't have to be arrogant. You don't have to pretend like you know everything, because none of us do. You just, the confidence that even if you don't know the answer, you can find out the answer.
Mm,
Um, the confidence of what you bring to the table, how you are with your clients. And then E, endurance, which is, just keeping multiple irons in the fire and not losing motivation,
mm,
regardless of, what's kind of beating you down. Another thing that I, kind of said yesterday, that an epiphany I had is, changing the word "I have to "I get to."
yeah.
And just, if you can do that in every area of things that are required of you to be successful, and saying, instead of saying "I have to," "I get to,"
Hmm.
and waking up every morning and just telling yourself that, those are just some really key nuggets I wanted to share because yeah, a lot of times, like I said, I share a lot about, this or that. And I feel like this, just in light of a lot of things going on right now,
Yeah,
this was.
Colby, when you went over that, I was able to catch the sales meeting. I caught that, and it was good. When you went over that, it really did resonate. A lot of that's in the mindset too. So, having your mindset right, and that last one is all about mindset. You really got to set it up right. I saw an agent post on Facebook this morning, words of affirmation, and she posted it. Is an agent, so obviously she's living by it. And then she had all these affirmation words that she was putting, which all of them was, I get to, not that I
Hmm.
have to, I get to do this. You change your mindset to, wow, what an opportunity I have. What about, I'm afraid to call and bug my people? What about, I get to call them and check in with them? You get
Hmm.
to do it versus I have to, or, oh, I hate, I'm bugging them. No, change your mindset. You get to do it. It's a blessing that you have to be able to follow up with them and see how they're doing, check in with them. And Colby brought up too the follow up. Not that he was saying don't do it, but if you switch that up too, that follow up, you get to do that. You get to follow up and check in with them.
Hmm.
And if you
I
do
love
it,
that.
shoot, you're going to get a referral. You get to follow up and see how they're doing. It's an opportunity. It's a blessing. So change the mindset up a little bit. It's definitely there. I love the Gandhi circle too. We've used that in ICC coaching a lot. Is your thoughts or your words, your behavior, your habits, and your character. So what goes into your brain, what you program your brain to say, and by the way, that starts in the morning, starts early. Program that brain right. What goes into your thoughts will come out of your mouth. So if you're putting negative in there, that I got to do my lead gen today, I have to, instead of I get to, that I have to is going to come out of your mouth. And we used to tell our ISAs all the time, put a mirror in front of your computer when you make your calls because they can tell if you're frowning. People can totally tell if you're not happy and not happy to do your job. But if you're smiling, oh my gosh, even my voice goes up when I smile. Just a different mindset. So are you smiling when you make your calls? Are you excited to make your calls? If you start off saying I hate it, it's going to come out of your words. They're going to know
Yeah.
it. Um, and then that it's going to be your behavior. It's going to become a new habit for you. And then now you're just Mr. and Mrs. Negative Nelly. You want to be the positive one. You've got a positive opportunity here to check in with your people. So good. Hey, so we ended up with a pretty good sized group of people jumped in here. Does anyone have any questions for Colby that you kind of want to just hear how he's done it, or what you'd like to, what maybe something you've been struggling with? Does anyone have any questions? It's always the fun part. But I'll say that when I asked this from Tony Larson last week or week before, was it last week? He had questions that would not stop coming. Holy
That's
moly.
awesome. That's awesome.
Like the questions just kept coming over and over again. It was so cool.
Well, so I have one question, Colby. So, as far as keeping, because you have a big team now, right? So you've got a big brokerage. As far as keeping, what's the word for it? Everybody on the same page and keeping that camaraderie solid, right? Like, what are tricks and tips that you've done to keep this vibe and protect this vibe that you have at Homes of Idaho, that's contagious, right?
This
Like,
this mimics right out of team. So like this
for
is a
sure.
I think
not
I think for me, and it may not help me again. I think we've talked about this. If you're talking about scaling, you know, I scaled? Absolutely, I've scaled. Have I done it in the most efficient, effective, and manner and done it as fast as I possibly can? No. And part of that, I would say, is, it's so important, the relationship aspect, the community, being a servant, giving first, not expecting before you give. I just living what I speak about. I feel like sometimes things get busy and they get chaotic, and we lose sight of some things, and some things get brushed under the rug, that help round us out, whether it's, whether it's exercise, whether it's this, that, whatever, that's going to help keep us at our peak. And for me, it's really just community. It's like, if we're out there giving a community, a lot of you I've seen on this call, have been out there handing out candy at parades with me and doing all kinds of stuff. I don't do that just as a checkbox on my list. I do it for my own personal mental well-being as well, where if we're giving back to the communities that we expect to do business with us, you know, it's always going to come back around. And I think some people lose sight of that. They think, oh, we need to cancel that event or not do this or not do that. That's just a budget item we don't need to spend money on right now, or, we don't have the budget for that, or whatever, kind of people, when they run a business, and so again, I may not be the best to say, hey, this is exactly how you should run a business, because you have to budget, you have to do all these things. But, for me personally, what helps kind of keep that culture is just to not lose sight of why we're really doing this and why we're really here, and not just make it about running a business, but also about the people and the relationships and the trust and just all the things that we've kind of been talking about in this call. So, it helps me to talk about it because it reminds me of why. And so, yeah.
That's a struggle sometimes too, where people can't come up with their why, or they came up with their big why, but then they end up going into a rut. They're not going. So safe to say, maybe your why wasn't big enough. And you need to come up with a bigger why. Change it up a little bit. There's no rules to this that says you got to stick to the same. You definitely want to consistently continue to do the things that are going to bring you success the quickest, right? Or your biggest fans, your biggest things. But what is the big why that's pushing you?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you wanted a new car and that was it. And then you kind of fizzled out. Maybe that car wasn't a big enough why. We need a bigger one. Bigger why.
Yep. Love it.
Tom, Colby, if I may, you're a person who has a lot of vision, obviously, to build homes of Idaho, as you have over the last few years. And as we approach 2025, I don't want you to, of course, give us all your thunder right now, but what are some things that we can expect that are new and exciting, and all that kind of stuff that will help us agents as well as the community?
Absolutely. Yeah. I'd say, new things for 2025. I always look at, okay, there's a certain personality, there's a certain culture, there's a certain person, but, the reason I do bring in so many tools, the reason I bring in a lot of the technology side of it is, those are things that can help agents implement what it is we're trying to do, the direction we're trying to go. I know Sean wanted me to touch on this probably, which I probably should do, which is a lot of our partnerships and relationships that we establish, some of them, it's like, okay, does this partnership benefit our agents? If not, then why would we continue down this road? Well, Zillow Showcase is something that I know,
How did you know we were going to talk about that today? I
So
actually had it right here in front of you where you were going to sit. So
yeah, and I'm not saying this is, the answer to everything, because I feel like, yeah, we, sometimes, one thing we get kind of pegged with as a company is, man, there's just a lot. There's a lot. And I get that. I understand that. I want to have a lot of thing to, I guess mud to throw at the wall, see what sticks kind of thing. Let me do trial and error on some of these things and see what works, so that agents aren't losing money left and right on things that, the new shiny object of the new lead source, the new this, the new that. But Zillow Showcase, there's been proven stats in other markets with Zillow Showcase. There's been, the kind of that book that Sean was showing you. There's some stats that go along with it when you're presenting Zillow Showcase to a client. I can kind of pull it up on my screen here and hopefully get that book in a digital format here for you. But essentially, let me pull up Showcase. And so, right now homes are on the market a little bit longer. Sellers are a little impatient. They're so used to their home selling overnight. They want it sold now. What can we do to really, whether it's a builder client, whether it's just a normal standard seller, whether it's an investor, whoever you're helping make investments, Zillow Showcase, you can see these little, red dots on this Zillow map showing different properties that are highlighted in red. Those are showcased listings. And then there's stats that go along with it based on what things Showcase does to help your listing stand out on Zillow. It helps them sell faster. Zillow's still the highest trafficked website out there. Showcase listings are 20% more likely to go pending in 14 days, and they sell for 2% more than an average house, so $9,000 more compared to non-showcase listings. Whether we like it or not, a lot of us, again, I feel like getting people to use your own website, your own subdomain, your own app, your own tools, call you on the cell phone instead of calling Zillow. Those are all the things we want. However, how do we take that traffic first and get that traffic to become our trusted client? We take in from Zillow, and how do we get those people to call us? Well, Showcase is one of those ways. Number one U.S. residential app, three times more daily active users than and 217 million average monthly unique users. Showcase listings have 81% more page views, 75% more saves, 79% more shares. It has an interactive floor plan. I'm gonna need you to drive. Yeah. Okay. AI powered immersive visuals, innovative design, amplified exposure in personalized search, special map stickers, dedicated email alerts to Zillow's customer database, ability to be featured on Apple Vision Pro through Zillow's immersive app, captivating new display on Zillow for your home, custom contact button for prospective customers get in touch with their agent. So all these things it does. So what it really helps our agents do is both on the listing side and the buy side, it helps in so many different ways to not only help impress your sellers, help you win more listings, help you get in front of people and show them something unique that you can do that not a lot of other agents can offer. And what's cool is whether you're, a legacy agent, whether you're Homes of Idaho agent, you have access to this. It's available to you. And it's only available to 10% of the market. So if 10% of the market has a showcased listing, no other agents can access Showcase. Our brokerage has unlimited access. So even if it goes above 10%, we're not cut off. But anybody who's not already signed up with Showcase would be cut off at that point. A standard agent trying to get Showcase on their own, like, if you didn't work for Legacy, if you didn't work for Homes of Idaho and you tried to get Showcase, you'd have to sign a year contract with Zillow and commit to paying them, a minimum of $550 a month to have one showcased listing per month. And so, I thought this would be a great thing to bring to our companies collectively, to say, hey, you can access this, you can pay per listing, you can pay in bulk, you can pay however you want. There's flexible ways to engage with Showcase, but you can now take this to your listing presentations, have your logo on there, have Legacy Real Estate, have Homes of Idaho on there, and take this presentation that Sean has to your listing appointments, show sellers what you can do. And then, Zillow has another product called Premier Agent, and Premier Agent is a product that, you get someone on the phone that thinks you're the listing agent, but you're not the listing agent. You're just a Zillow Premier Agent that is buying buyer leads essentially. And they're not even calling about your property listing. They're calling about someone else's, but you're now getting buyers and you have to convert them to think, oh, you're the listing agent. No, I'm not. I'm just a buyer's agent that, is representing, works with Zillow to, there's a whole script you can go along if you're a Premier Agent of how you try to convert those leads. But what's really nice is people that really are looking for the listing agent get a hold of the listing agent. See how it says contact Sally, listed by Sally, and contact Sally. So instead of getting you actually get the leads on your own listings. And a lot of our agents have said they get a lot more calls on their own listings. what you do with those, whether you try to double in your own properties, whether you try to just, bring them in, build rapport, build relationship, and start trying to help them find their dream home. Whether it's you don't want to double on your listing, you refer them out. You have a team and you delegate those leads to someone on your team. However you want to handle those leads, you'll start getting your own leads for a fixed price based on what Showcase costs you. And you don't have to pay per lead anymore because it's just per Showcase. So, there's some really good ways to leverage this that I've found. So, that was kind of just one little tiny nugget of Stan's question. There's a lot you could dive into as far as how we're going to position ourselves differently in 2025. There's my parents used to own a franchise brokerage. Me and Sean both used to, well, I wouldn't say I was ever part of a franchise company, but Sean was, at a certain point. And I feel like there's, in this changing market, in this changing climate, this changing environment, online, AI, all this stuff, what you really need to do is just position yourselves with tools and resources and technology and be nimble and be flexible. And that's what an independent brokerage allows, us to do on the, as visionaries, owners, CEOs, whatever, team leaders. It helps position ourselves more effectively to be nimble and to, instead of just, here's your in the box brokerage per se of what you get access to as far as tools and resources. We try to kind of have an array of options and the right partnerships, and not just, kind of narrowly focus on what, and so that's been my goal, is just to stay flexible. And I think a lot of the big franchise brokerages got hit really hard. They didn't get covered under the lawsuit that NAR settled on, so they had a lot more. Some of them are even separating from NAR. Remax has made an announcement: you don't have to be part of National Association of Realtors anymore if you're a Remax agent, because Remax had to settle outside of that lawsuit. There's some really things I'm thankful for, as far as being an independent company like we are. Very thankful because there's things that, through this lawsuit, that we're able to, through all this change, that we're able to be more flexible, more nimble, and kind of learn from what some of these bigger companies are having to face as far as that goes. So yeah.
Totally. That's good, Colby. Thank you for sharing that. Definitely. That's awesome. All right, guys, we're approaching an hour. One last chance. Is there anyone that has any more questions before we keep going?
I have a question for Colby, actually for everybody, whoever wants to answer. So I am running for Coldwell Board of Realtors president-elect. So what are three things, and you've kind of talked about it, but what are three things that you think agents, and again, I mean, I feel like if I reflect on the conversation, you probably answered this, but three things off the top of your head that agents need more of to, I don't want to say survive, but to thrive in this new landscape that we're
Interesting. Interesting. Do you want to kick that one off, Sean? I think, or anybody? I'd love to see what you guys.
Yeah. So are you looking for production-based items, or are you looking for anything? Like, what are any three things that they should be inputting in
I
there?
think production, no, I'm not looking for production. I am looking for three traits, skills, characteristics to raise the bar for agents in this environment. Professionalism. I think the agents in the past, I'm a newer agent, so I don't know. I feel like it's much different. I'm not going to say it was easier, because this is a hard profession no matter what, but I think with the changing landscape and everything, it just looks different. But I think if we change ourselves, if we educate ourselves and make ourselves better, then the production will follow. So
you're nailing it. There's two, I'll give two of the three right off the bat. Number one, mindset. This is a game of having the positive mindset. Okay. Number two is, oh my goodness, it went out of my head right now. Number two is, training and coaching daily. And we're talking daily. Like, it needs to be one, mindset first thing in the morning. Two, what training are you doing before you get started in your day? Those two things will drive your entire day of success. That's it. That's a secret sauce right there. mindset and training, or training first is going to bring the mindset. Maybe you're going to learn something in that training you did that day, whether it's a new module series you're going through, whether it's a book you're reading. It doesn't matter what it is. And I'm telling you, when my mindset changed to another level was the year that I read Atomic Habits. That book drove me through so many new books. I mean, it got me back into reading. It got me back on my game, health-wise, mental status, just the fact that, you know what? It's a true statement. If I fail 2 days in a row, there's something I need to change up.
I think mindset is number one. I think that's absolutely number one. And then kind of what I said earlier, which is just living and embodying, kind of manifesting the agent that you want to be, because I feel like, and that falls right back into mindset, because you have to believe it before you're going to achieve it. And I just think that, there's, and I think a lot of people on this call that I see are a perfect example of you are who you surround yourself with. And I think that's a big element of everything too, is, being involved in whatever it is that is going to immerse yourself to be around the right people, whether it's, being on a team, being part of a board or association, or being part of a BNI group, or being part of a this or that, just be in the right places with the right people at all times, and just putting yourself in the right environments to manifest and to sort of, be in environments where success can happen is huge. So yeah.
And to collaborate, right? So having the right people on your team that you can collaborate with doesn't necessarily have to be a team, right? But having people that you look up to and strive to be and trust, and finding that lane in real estate, right? And so when you find that lane of this is who I want to be as a realtor, and then you surround yourself with people that reflect or resemble that, right? And then have that collaboration aspect, I think is super healthy right now with how everything has shifted. Because being a solo real estate agent gets lonely, right? And so you want to be able to reflect and bounce ideas back and forth off each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say definitely. I feel like there's a lot of people who have a scarcity mindset, and and that is a rough path for a lot of people. I've always been in that, abundance mindset of, there's plenty to go around. So the, more we collaborate, the more we're able to share, but also the more we're able to learn. So, it's like share, we're always if we live with an open hand and we share, it also allows other ideas to come back to us as well. And sometimes that's gotten, could get people in trouble, where it's like, oh, now you're too trusting, and now you just got burned here, there, burned there, whatever. But historically, it's always worked out really, really well. I'd say, there's, just yesterday, like I was struggling with, when I was setting up, it was the first time using an iPad for our meetings, and I didn't have a long enough charge cord to plug it in, to make sure didn't have to worry about it. And one of our agents pulled out this huge long, charging cord for an iPad and gave it to me. So just that, just a kind of a silly analogy, but it's not, because on a bigger scale, bigger level, with, with business and with collaborating, hey, you need this, you already have this, but you need this. And I have that, and we put these two things together, and it's like, boom, now magic happens. So
good.
It's just cool to see those kind of things. And so that's, to kind of go back to what Sean said earlier about culture, it's like, I never want to lose that, no matter what. Like that would, that is so key and so important to everyone's success. And so, yeah.
So good.
Thank you guys. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. As we wrap this up, all right, so I'm going to give you just a quick little coaching moment, and then we're going to wrap this up, and I'm going to tell you about what's coming up next week and the week after, because you're not going to want to miss it, okay? You're not going to want to miss this. And make sure you time block your calendar on it. But as we talk about between this week and next week, just know that everybody fails, guys. Everyone fails from time to time. That's just part of being human. The difference between the top producers and those that are not top producers is how fast they pull themselves out of it. How fast they shift and move to say, look, I can't let that happen again. That's the difference. That's the secret sauce, is how fast you're going to pull yourself back out of it. Find a new way of doing it if it didn't work that time. Do something different, shift to a different way of doing things, but don't quit, because that's where the failure happens. So what can you do this week that you failed on last week or the week after you keep failing on? Switch it up this week. Make a plan. Start it today. Today's day one. Today is still early enough. It's only noon in Idaho. 11 o'clock for those of you in California. You have plenty of time to make today day one to change your circumstances. That's the difference. Okay. All right. So next week we have a special guest for those of you getting going in KV Core. I know you've heard by now. We talked about it in our sales meeting yesterday in Legacy. I can't remember if you talked about it in Homes of Idaho or not, but I know that everyone's been shouting it, that KV Core is rebranding. Okay, so they're going to be rebranding a little bit. It's not going to change up the way you're doing things. Your CRM is still the same, but for those of you using KV Core, it's going to brand a little different. It's going to change. It's going to be better. They're excited about this. Our very own rep for both Homes of Idaho and Legacy is going to be leading this call next week on the 16th, Megan Lewis. She's going to be here teaching about anything you want to know about KV Core, anything that you're trying to figure out how to do. She's probably going to leave you some sort of coaching moment on how you can use KV Core. So make sure you're here. You want to know more about KV Core. You want to dig deeper. Megan Lewis is the expert. She is our rep. So she's the one. So she's going to be here next week teaching. The week after, I have a special guest that you're not going to want to miss. Okay. That's on the 23rd, the week after. We have a mindset coach. She's not a real estate mindset coach. She is a mindset coach for any businesses, for any business owners, for anyone struggling in life itself. Mindset coach. Jennifer Hansen is going to be here, special guest. So make sure you don't miss that one as well. That's on the 23rd. So exciting next 2 weeks coming. Make sure you're here, guys. And thank you so much, Colby. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate everyone.
You're welcome. Go get it, guys. It's not going to come to you.